Kalle Sauerland, top boxing promoter, in studio with us. And Kalle, you've entered the YouTuber world in recent times with KSI and the Misfits series. I was there at Wembley when KSI topped the bill and was magnificent. So there's a market for it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a massive market for it. It's huge eyeballs, huge numbers. You know, we've been doing it for 7 months. We just signed a 5-year deal with DAZN, doing 10 shows this year. We just announced a world tour, Ibiza, New Orleans, you name it. We were up in Telford next weekend. Doesn't sound too glamorous, Telford, but we are called the Misfits, so we go everywhere from Rio to Telford. Sold out in Telford next week, but yeah, this one in the desert. You know, they're pulling the big events down there. I did the first event down there with George Groves, Callum Smith, that World Boxing Super Series final. I can tell you, when you were down there, they really know how to put on an event. You could eat off the floor there. So you can't do that in many venues around the world. And they throw the bucks at it and they get the big ones down there. And, you know, Jake Paul, very much on our radar. So I hope he gets past Tommy, because we want to make that KSI fight this year and watch KSI smash him to absolute bits. But you know, Tommy, out of the two, I guess, has the more boxing pedigree, if one is allowed to say that in this space.
You see, earlier on this morning, Kalle, I said to Danny straight off the bat, will you take it in? Will you follow it, watch it, listen to it? You said no.
Well, I'm working for a start. I mean, if I was sat at home, maybe. But I'm it's something, one of those that I would look at after it happened and go, oh, what happened? Rather than, because I like boxing, but bigger fights. I'm not an avid fan. But
your lad will be watching.
Probably,
Your lad will probably be watching.
Yeah, he will.
And what's interesting is, in January, we did KSI at Wembley.
Yeah. And
we went straight to Manchester for Eubank Smith. Now, all my pals, my 3B pals, if you're listening, you know who you are, they called me up for the KSI one, and it was like, yeah, well, you know, I've got to take the kids down there. You can sort me out a couple of tickets for the kids. You know, I'll come along as well. And, of course, the week later, it was a lads one. You know, so it's two totally different crowds. What I'll say is about the YouTube crowd, a sold-out venue means a sold-out venue, i.e. it's full from the first fight. I've never seen that anywhere around the world in boxing. It's, you know, you normally get the undercard, it slowly fills up, and then, you know, you get the co-feature, and then you got the big main event, and it builds up through the night. These events with the YouTubers, it's fantastic. The atmosphere is insane.
Why do you think that is
younger element?
Because every person on the card, let's say, you know, and they are athletes in this space. They've been training for these fights. These fights are serious fights, not made up fights. It's not WWE. It's not staged. There's no fake fights. They get punched in the face, and you know, as Mike Tyson once said, every man who has a plan, when he gets punched in the face, it can change. But what the difference is that each of them, even the first guy on the undercard, which in normal boxing, traditional boxing, would be, someone who's just started his pro career, probably got 100 fans with him, travelled down from somewhere or travelled up from somewhere. These guys and girls all have huge followings. So everyone, even though they might not be a fan of them, they've got some opinion of them and they'll know them. So they want to be in from the first fight. You know, we did the same thing last year with KSI at the O2. There was a roadblock. The police told us we had to push the start of the event because all the fans were trying to get in. It was like the Beatles were performing. It was crazy.
But Kalle, could you ever have envisaged a time when a true boxing bout, a true fight, a title fight, is on the undercard to a YouTuber fighting a boxer?
See, we've split it.
As is happening this weekend.
So we have a separate company, Misfits Boxing, with KSI.
It's just YouTubers.
Which is just YouTube, and we don't mix the worlds.
And how was that? That was a sellout.
And not to say that there might be some boxers who come onto that card, but we wouldn't mix the cards like that.
Why?
I just think it's two different worlds, and I think that a world title fight, in my opinion, I'm not saying they're doing it wrong, it's that everyone horses for courses. For me, it's a different world. And we have something called a Misfits Pro Division, which is, you know, either retired pros coming back or pros who aren't quite at that level. Maybe they go on to that traditional scene afterwards. What I didn't like at the beginning, I was very vocal, and there was a viral clip of me going off on a right rant, was what I don't like is when they're calling out the Canelos and things like that. I mean, it's like me telling Danny I'll beat him in a one-on-one. You know, it's not going to happen, is it?
Right,
it's like me picking up a racket in I don't know, Regent's Park at a weekend next week. Roger, you know, let's have a game at Wimbledon next year. That's just total BS, isn't it? And then I think that people see through that. I think that, you know, there's obviously a market for it. It's nothing that interests me. You know, there's a buzz around this little world. Let's not make too much of what they're trying to be. They're novice boxers. Some of them take it very extremely serious. If you look at KSI, travels around the world tours, wherever he is. He was in Australia launching his prime down there last week in front of millions of people. And he travels with his training team. Now, of course, he mustn't forget, a lot of these guys and girls, they are on serious money outside of boxing. So they're not doing this for money. They're doing it because they're the sort of crazy people who love a challenge.
Yeah.
Let's face it, they're not being challenged to play badminton, are they?
Well, KSI said to me he does this because he wants to be the best version of himself when he fights.
Yeah.
As he wants to be the best version of himself as a YouTuber.
Well,
but the two worlds don't collide. They do kind of amalgamate because Jake Paul will be officially ranked amongst the world's best cruiserweights by the WBC if he beats Fury.
Yeah, I find that. I love
Do you
the
see
pro.
what I mean, Danny?
That for me, that I don't know. I've promoted 5-6 cruiserweight world champions, including Alexander Usyk, and unified all the belts for them. That I don't like.
But the WBC, Kalle said this is the only way to go forward. It will not tolerate discrimination against anyone.
Yeah, I think
Jake Paul would deserve the opportunity any other boxer has.
I think that there's other fighters. Then I think you'd have to fight. I mean, Tommy Fury, and I'm a big friend of Tyson. Love the family, and I'm sure that Tommy has definitely got, like I said, more boxing pedigree. That family goes back hundreds of years in fighting. So I hope some of it's rubbed off because I haven't seen too much of him in a boxing ring. To be fair to Jake Paul, although, like I said before, KSI is going to smash his lights out this year. Jake Paul is a super athlete. He was a wrestler. He was this, that, and the other. You see also with Logan. These are very, athletic guys. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a great boxer.
Who wins it, do you think?
It's I'd probably lean to Jake Paul probably,
Really?
And my heart will be on the Fury side. My
business mind.
My business mind, and certainly my business partner's ambitions. KSI, he wants him in that ring this year, so we're hoping he comes out in one piece.
That is unimaginably huge. If Jake Paul beats Fury, you're going to put him in with KSI.
That's something that's been we're in discussions with them at the moment.
Well, they could have that fight even if he doesn't win, couldn't they?
Yeah. I mean,
because of the following of both.
Exactly. It's the same. We're talking about AJ Fury now in traditional boxing. Would we still watch it? Of course we would. The whole nation would watch it. Losses in boxing. We had a big one recently with Eubank. Hey, listen, that's part of the job. You pick yourself up and go again.
You weren't saying that in the day.
The simple thing is, you know what?
Jim, I certainly was. On record, I am the worst loser in the room. Actually, I'm not sure Danny did achieve that.
I would have thought he was pretty
but
bad
Dan,
too.
to achieve things in sport, and I've promoted probably 50, 60 world champions over a couple of decades. If you're a good loser, you're not going to be able to achieve stuff like that.
Well, he's not here, but I'll steal his line. And Simon's favourite one is, show me a good loser and I'll show you a loser.
That's true.
But I had this conversation with my boy, and this might be a bit contentious, but when he plays football, he's 13, and they lose on occasion, he takes it too well for me. And I try and tell him that when I was 13... basically, you'd have to carry me off on a stretcher if we were losing. Because I would run myself into the ground and do everything I could and go down on my shield. I couldn't lose. It was just... even like when I do things to get my eldest son now, he's in mid-20s, but him growing up, my boy now, play anything. Could be chess. Doesn't matter. I can't lose.
Really?
So
I've never given someone a game.
Don't never play Monopoly with me because it doesn't end well. It doesn't end well.
We're about to hit the break, but as you just said, mate, you have promoted some of the biggest fights that I can remember. If it ends up that KSI goes in the ring against Jake Paul, would that be the biggest ever?
look, you've got to put it into perspective here. It's
In terms of potential audience.
sporting wide, potential audience without a doubt.
Really?
I mean, that is without a doubt.
Give me a comparison. What's one of your biggest?
I think if I look at, let's say, I don't know, Hey Klitschko, thinking from a UK perspective, we promoted all over the world, but that obviously was huge numbers, over 1 million pay-per-view buys in the UK,
Really?
which translates, I guess, into a very big
lot of
audience.
money, yeah.
But
What would Paul KSI get in views?
you're talking. It could be, it could be well over 1 billion views. I mean, alone their clips. You got to remember something.
1 billion?
These guys combined have 100 million, not followers, subscribers. Yeah. So alone that is actually 1 billion is probably quite conservative. It's the numbers are absolutely insane.
Sure are.
Then they've got to. Surely they'll both see the potential in that.
Yeah, they do. But you know what? These are the two in the scene that. And there's more and more, and there's the interesting part. There's more and more coming through. There's a kid called Salt Pappy, for example, who a lot of people are talking about.
Oh yeah, saw him.
But who can actually really fight,
yeah,
really punch. But there's KSI and Logan Paul is that sort of AJ Fury of the scene,
right?
And when it comes to negotiation, of course, especially I'm not now taking my guys, obviously KSI, but the American side is always harder to deal with.